Some tractors were more than machines. They were part of the family. They fired up before daylight, pulled through harvest, and stayed on the farm long after newer models came and went. Today, we're counting down 10 legendary tractors that carried 3 generations through nearly 70 years of hard work, memory, and pride. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll see why one of them still stands above them all. Number 10. The John Deere 60. This is the kind of tractor many folks remember as the machine that stood between two eras. It still had that old 2-cylinder heartbeat, that steady pop-pop sound rolling across an open field. But at the same time, it felt like the farm was moving into something a little more modern. For a lot of families, the John Deere 60 was the tractor Grandpa respected, Dad counted on, and the grandkids later learned to drive with both hands tied on the wheel. Its job on the farm was never flashy, and that is exactly why it mattered so much. It pulled wagons, handled lighter field work, ran everyday chores, and took care of the kind of jobs that never make big stories, but keep a farm going season after season. Even after larger, newer tractors showed up, the John Deere 60 still had a place. It was too useful to let go, and too dependable to forget. The reason it could serve 3 generations was simple. It was sturdy, familiar, and worth repairing. Families knew its sound, its rhythm, and the little things it needed to keep going. That kind of trust is not built in one year. It is earned over decades, one planting season, one hay ride, and one harvest at a time. And if you think that kind of loyalty is impressive, the next tractor on our list may surprise you even more, because it came from a name many younger folks hardly hear anymore. Number 9. The Minneapolis-Moline UTU. There is something special about a tractor that feels tied to a region, and the Minneapolis-Moline UTU carries that upper Midwest spirit in a way few machines do. That prairie gold paint was hard to miss. But what really made this tractor unforgettable was the way it became part of everyday life. On farms like these, folks did not care much about trends. They cared about whether a tractor would start, pull, and stay useful when there was hay to move, corn to haul, and a long day waiting. For many families, this was not the biggest tractor on the farm. It was the one that kept proving it belonged there. It handled utility work, lighter row crop jobs, and all the steady labor that makes a machine feel like part of the place. Children grew up seeing it parked in the same shed, year after year. Later on, when they were finally old enough, many of them learned the controls from that very seat. The reason it served 3 generations was simple. It stayed practical. A tractor like this did not survive because it was flashy. It survived because it remained useful long after it was no longer new. First, it was a working tractor. Then it became the second tractor. Then the chore tractor. And after all those years, it was still the tractor that had one more job left in it. And the next machine on our list carries that same kind of staying power, with a brand name that meant a great deal to farm country. Number 8. The JI Case DC. The JI Case DC feels like one of those tractors real farm families never had to explain. If you knew, you knew. It was solid, honest, and built with the kind of no-nonsense character that made a farmer trust it season after season. For many Midwest families, it was part of the working rhythm of the place. Not a showpiece, not a machine for bragging, just a tractor that earned its keep year after year. In a lot of families, the DC began as a true working tractor. The first generation used it for field work, when the farm depended on every good acre and every long day mattered. Then, as time moved on and newer equipment arrived, the DC did not disappear. It shifted into new roles. It might run belt work, handle lighter tillage, pull wagons, or take care of small chores around the yard. That is how tractors like this survived. They did not stop being useful. They simply found a new place in the life of the farm. What made the Case DC a 3-generation machine was its backbone. It was tough, understandable, and worth repairing. Farmers knew its habits. They knew how it sounded, how it pulled, and what it needed. On a family farm, that means everything. A machine that can still help is rarely sent away. And if that kind of quiet dependability means something to you, the next tractor on our list may feel even closer to home, especially for folks who still remember the Oliver name with real pride. Number 7. The Oliver 77. For a lot of Midwest farmers, hearing the name Oliver still brings back a very particular kind of respect. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, honest respect. The Oliver 77 was one of those tractors that fit family farming so well, it almost seemed like it had grown there. It looked right in the yard, sounded right in the field, and felt like the kind of machine built for people who planned to keep farming for the long haul, not just make it through one season. In many families, the 77 became the reliable main helper during years when every acre mattered. It was strong enough to do serious work, yet simple enough that more than one generation could feel at home on it. That matters in a story like this. The easier a tractor is to trust, the longer it stays part of everyday life. Grandpa could depend on it in the field, Dad could keep it working, and the grandkids could grow up knowing exactly where it sat in the shed. The Oliver 77 lasted because it never stopped being useful. Even after larger tractors began changing the look of American farming, this one still had work to do. It stayed dependable, easy to live with, and worth keeping around. And on many farms, that is all a tractor had to do to become part of the family story. And from here, we move to a tractor with a different color and a different personality. One that proved being a little more advanced could still make it unforgettable. Number 6. The Allis-Chalmers WD. The Allis-Chalmers WD brought something different to the farm. It wore that unmistakable orange paint. And to a lot of families, it felt a little more lively, a little more forward-looking than some of the tractors parked beside it. But what made people love the WD was not just the color. It was the feeling that this tractor could work hard without ever feeling awkward or heavy. For many farmers, it seemed ready to go the moment there was a job waiting. In the story of a family farm, the WD often became the tractor Dad leaned on during the busy working years, then kept around because it was simply too useful to give up. It could handle chores, cultivation, lighter field work, and everyday hauling without much fuss. That kind of flexibility matters more than people sometimes realize. A tractor that only does one thing can be replaced. A tractor that helps with a little bit of everything becomes part of the farm itself. That is one big reason the WD stayed with so many families across 3 generations. It combined usefulness with familiarity. Once people learned its ways and came to trust it, they held on to it. Years later, it may not have been the biggest horsepower in the shed, but it was still the tractor someone reached for when they wanted something dependable, simple, and known. And the next tractor on our list is tied even more close to the old sound of American farming. A machine so familiar that many folks may recognize it before we even say its name. Number 5. The John Deere B. The John Deere B is the kind of tractor that almost feels woven into the sound of rural America. That steady 2-cylinder rhythm was more than engine noise. It was part of everyday life. For many families, the John Deere B was not some distant legend. It was right there in the shed, parked by the barn, ready for chores, planting, hauling, or whatever the day called for. Its place in the family was often bigger than its size. This was the kind of tractor people felt comfortable with. Grandpa trusted it. Dad used it all the time. And later on, it became the machine younger family members could learn on without feeling overwhelmed. That kind of ease matters. It is one of the reasons a tractor stops being just equipment and becomes part of a family's memory. The John Deere B lasted for 70 years on many farms because it stayed useful long after its prime. Maybe it was no longer the main tractor in the field. Maybe it spent its later years pulling wagons, handling lighter jobs, or showing up at a local parade. But it was still there, still starting, still carrying that familiar sound across the yard, still feeling like home to the people who grew up around it. And if the John Deere B already feels close to the heart of American farming, the next tractor may feel even more personal, because it reached far beyond one brand or one region and became part of rural America itself. Number 4. The Ford 8N. If there is one tractor that feels like it belonged to just about everybody, it might be the Ford 8N. On small farms, livestock places, side farms, and family operations all across America, the 8N earned its place by being simple, practical, and easy to live with. It was the kind of tractor that did not intimidate people. It welcomed them. You did not have to be a full-time mechanic to appreciate it. You just had to need a tractor that would help you get through the day. That gave the Ford 8N a special place in family life. Grandpa may have bought it because it was affordable and useful. Dad kept it because there was always another chore waiting. Then the grandkids grew up seeing it as the tractor that was always nearby, always available, and somehow always still part of the farm. That is one reason the 8N became so beloved. It was not tied to just one moment in time. It changed right along with the family. It served 3 generations because it stayed relevant. A farm might bring in bigger horsepower, newer equipment, and more specialized machines, but the 8N still had work to do. It could mow, pull, blade a driveway, handle light utility jobs, and take care of all the little tasks that never really go away. And a tractor that can keep doing that, year after year, rarely loses its value. And now we move into the top 3, where the names get heavier, the memories run deeper, and the next tractor helped define what a true family farm tractor looked like for an entire generation. Number 3. The Farmall H. The Farmall H holds a very special place in American farm memory. It was not too big, and it was not too small. For countless family farms, especially across the Midwest, it felt just right. When folks talk about tractors that truly lived on the land, not just passed through it, the Farmall H belongs in that conversation every single time. It was the kind of machine that became part of the daily rhythm of a farm and part of the memory of the people who worked it. For many families, this was the everyday worker. It planted, it cultivated, it pulled, it hauled, and it kept showing up through years when one tractor had to do almost everything. That alone gave it staying power. But what made the Farmall H a true 3-generation tractor was the way it fit into family life. It was strong enough for real work, simple enough to understand, and familiar enough to hand down. Grandpa trusted it in the field. Dad kept it running. And the grandkids grew up knowing exactly what it looked like and what it sounded like. The Farmall H lasted because families could still use it decades later. Maybe it became the rake tractor. Maybe it pulled wagons. Maybe it stayed because nobody could bring themselves to let go of a machine that had carried so much family history. And that is the truth about tractors like this. Their value is not only in what they did, it is also in what they meant. And if the Farmall H feels like the heart of a family farm, the next tractor on our list had even more presence, even more weight in memory, and for many folks, it defined what a real tractor looked like. Number 2. The John Deere Model A. The John Deere Model A is one of those tractors that feels bigger than machinery. It feels like an era. The shape, the sound, the green paint, and the way it stood in the field all carried the weight of old American farming. For many families, this was more than a useful machine. It was a real step forward, the kind of tractor that helped turn hard seasons into manageable ones and gave farmers a little more confidence when the work ahead looked long. Inside the family story, the Model A often became a symbol of stability. Grandpa may have relied on it in years when every piece of equipment had to earn its keep. Dad kept using it because it was still capable, still familiar, and still too valuable to push aside. Then the grandkids came along and inherited more than the tractor itself. They inherited the memory of what it meant to the people before them. And that kind of meaning stays on a farm for a very long time. Why did the Model A last so long? Because it was built to work. And because families were willing to keep it working. Parts, know-how, and plain old loyalty helped keep a tractor like this alive. On many farms, that mattered more than chasing something new. Once a machine proved itself over the years, it earned a place that was hard to replace. And if the John Deere Model A carries that much weight in memory, number 1 may be the tractor that captures this title better than any other, with strength, endurance, and 3 generations of trust built into every season it served. Number 1. The Farmall M. If one tractor deserves to stand at the top of this list, it is the Farmall M. This machine was not just respected, it was depended on. Across the Midwest, the Farmall M became the kind of tractor families built whole seasons around. It had enough size to do serious work, enough character to stay in a man's memory, and enough durability to remain part of the farm long after newer iron showed up in the shed. This is the tractor that fits our title better than any other. Grandpa may have bought it when it was still a true field machine, strong enough to handle the kind of work that kept a family farm moving. Dad kept it because it stayed useful, familiar, and too dependable to let go. Then the third generation came along and knew it as the tractor that still started for auger duty, wagon work, hay jobs, or one more slow ride down the lane on a warm summer evening. That is not just long service. That is family inheritance. The Farmall M lasted through 3 generations because it balanced power with simplicity. It was tough, fixable, and worth keeping. Folks understood it, trusted it, and knew it still had something left to give. On many farms, it became more than an old tractor. It became part of the family's identity. And that is why, after all these years, the Farmall M still feels less like a machine from the past and more like a living piece of American farm history. These tractors lasted because they were built well, but they were remembered because families gave them meaning. They helped raise crops, raise kids, and carry a way of life from one generation to the next. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which tractor served your family the longest? And which one still comes back to you every time you hear it start? Share your story in the comments. Because in the end, that story matters just as much as the machine.